Welcome to another episode of Cup of Joe. Very special episode today. I have a guest. How awesome is that? Please meet Doug Kleintop. Doug is with University of Delaware. You're vice president of something, I believe.
Assistant vice president for colleges and programs.
Assistant vice president for colleges and programs.
Yes.
Cool. Well, Doug has lots of experience and great ideas. We've known each other a long time. And you've managed major gift officers, many over the years, 20 years almost?
About 20 years now, 21 years, in fact.
Yeah. So there's a question that I get a fair amount, and I don't, candidly, people think as a consultant that we have all the answers. We don't, right? It's that vulnerability that I like to talk about, admitting that we don't have all the answers. Mm-hmm. And one came up with a client recently about motivating and inspiring donors to increase their giving level, mm-hmm. and coming up with a compelling reason for them to do that. So let's create the scenario. We have a donor, or let's say Lorraine and I, my wife and I, are giving $25,000 a year. And let's say you're a fundraiser for a charity, not a university where we have endowed scholarships, mm-hmm. but a charity where we don't really have, it's not like give us $25,000 and you can build a water well in Africa for this village.
Sure.
We're not doing that. So if we're giving $25,000 and you want us to increase that, of course, that's your job. A, how do you figure out how much to ask for? And then B, what's the compelling reason? Why should Lorraine and I go to whatever level you're suggesting? Oh, by the way, we didn't click coffee cups. You have your coffee cup there? This is Cup of Joe. Whoops, I guess we can't do that with the camera. Click. Thank you. Oh,
not as easy, Joe. It says believe you can. It says believe you can and you will.
Beautiful.
Very appropriate.
Motivate your donor to increase your giving level and you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
Let's hope.
Cool. So how do we do that?
Well, I think it's a great question, Joe. And it's a question, we often hear from gift officers. It's questions we ask ourselves, right? How do we get the donor to increase their gift? And, you asked several questions there. One is, how do we decide on that amount, right? What is the amount we should be asking for that donor for? We believe it's about really helping the donor understand what is the impact, right? We need to understand what is the impact that the donor wants to have. And oftentimes, if you get the donor excited about the impact and the ability to do this or that, the amount follows. And so we always are big proponents of lead with impact before you lead with the amount. And the impact will help you get to the amount. But I do think there are certain steps that a gift officer needs to follow before you're going to go ahead and ask any donor to increase their gift. First is do your homework, right? Make sure you have a good understanding of why does the donor care about your organization? What is the impact that the donor wants to have? Very often we'll hear about organizations where each and every year a donor is sending them $5,000 through their direct mail appeal. Now, all of a sudden, the organization wants to ask that donor for $10,000, but the organization doesn't know anything about the donor. So again, do your homework, get to know your donor, understand, again, why they care about you, and what is the impact they're hoping to have through their philanthropy. So that's number one. Number two, it's take their temperature. These individuals have been giving to your organization. Make sure they feel good about their gifts, because we can't ask someone to increase their gift if they don't feel good about their existing gift. So let's make sure we're asking that question, and we make sure that they feel good about the impact that their gift is already having. Once you've done those two steps and you're in a point where they feel good about their gift, then you want to make the ask. And I heard this a while ago, Joe, and I think it's really true. It's not asking for money. We're asking for their help. And I think we really have to let them know why we're asking for their help and what will be different if they help us. So it's making the case to that individual, making sure they understand why we're asking them to increase their gift. I spent some time, Joe, working in the annual fund, and part of our goal every year was to get donors to increase their gifts. But when we looked at our appeals that we were sending and how we were making the ask, what we realized is we weren't telling them why we were asking them to increase their gift. And I think so many individuals and so many development shops don't do a good job of making the case as to why. And so whether you're talking about an annual fund donor, a major gift donor, a plan giving donor, we have to help them understand the why. And so I think that is really important in terms of when we make those types of asks of a donor, that we really help them understand, here's why we're asking you to make this increased gift, and here's what will be different if you're able to help us.
Okay, excellent. So the tough part is, here's what will be different. Let's say we're a museum. Again, we don't have endowed scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
What was the term? You and I were talking about this topic the other day. Two types of, you remember what you said? I forget.
Yeah, so there's often what we refer to as budget relieving and budget enhancing.
Budget relieving, budget enhancing.
And what we mean by that is that, if a donor is making a gift to a specific program, will those dollars be in addition to the funding level that the program is already receiving? So it will enhance that program? Or by making that gift to that program, is that going to allow the organization to redirect some of the dollars it was already using for that program to serve another need? And so that's what we mean by budget enhancement versus budget relieving.
Wonderful. So we're a museum. Lorraine and I are giving $10,000 a year. You want us to consider a gift of 50. How will things be? I'm going to put you on the spot. How will things be different if we give a $50,000 check or donation?
Well, and I think this is where the organization has to be able to, if you're going to ask for that amount, you need to be able to answer that question. So is it that we're going to be able to serve more individuals? Is it that we're going to be able to offer new and innovative programs? Right? There's a reason why we need your support. And I think we have to be able to answer the why. I'll give you a great example, Joe, and I think this is something organizations tend to forget about, is that I was working with an organization at one point, and they were raising about $750,000 a year, and they wanted to increase their goal to $1 million. And the reason they wanted to increase their goal to $1 million is they wanted to hire 2 new staff members. And so as they talked to donors about why we were asking them to increase their gifts, they would tell them we're looking to add new staff. Well, the idea of adding new staff is not something that donors want to support. However, if you can tell the story of what adding those new staff members will mean for the organization, we'll be able to offer this many new programs, we'll be able to serve this many more people, and we'll be able to meet this need, it tells a very different story in a way that's very compelling for the donor. So you have to really think about not just what you're ultimately trying to use the funds for, but what it will mean for the organization.
And do the best you can in measuring it, putting metrics to it.
Absolutely.
Even if they're more, they're not specific, even if they're a little more general, but being creative in the way that you quantify things. Quantify the need. Is that a way to say it?
Absolutely.
Look at me contributing to the conversation. Well, Doug, okay, so great, excellent. Takeaways then for our audience?
One, we need to be willing to ask people to increase their gifts, right? Because so often we want people to increase their gifts, but we're not willing to make that ask. And so we're encouraging you to make that ask, but again, do your homework, take their temperature, and then when you make the ask, really make sure you're defining why you're asking them to increase their support and what will be different if they make that gift.
Awesome. Great job. Doug Kleintop, University of Delaware, Assistant Vice President for something.
Colleges and programs. You're almost there, Joe.
All right. Great. Doug, thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe.